of our sovereignty down there, and a top threat to individual rights and freedoms for Americans from sea to shining sea, Mr. Wray, is the weaponization of the FBI against the American citizens that you've sworn to serve. Secretary Mayorkas, for the record, are you aware or have you authorized CBP agents to release illegal aliens into America without identifying, screening, or vetting them properly, or harvesting even basic biometric data like fingerprints?
Congressman, our nation's sovereignty stands strong, and our brave men and women in the Border Patrol and throughout U.S. Customs.
Are you aware or have you authorized CBP agents to release illegal aliens into America without having properly vetted, identified them, or collected at least basic biometric data like fingerprints?
Congressman,
I mean, you got millions coming across.
Congressman, our
gentleman from Ms. Higgins, allow the Secretary to answer.
It's my time, Mr. Chairman. If I want to reclaim my time, I will.
Yeah,
I'm going to move on without an answer. Mr. Chairman, are you asking for me to yield you time?
No, I'm the chair.
Then I'm going to reclaim my time.
Look, we don't.
Moving on.
No,
Secretary Mayorkas.
The gentleman from.
Are you interrupting my time, Mr. Chairman? Or are you requesting me to use your time?
I'm trying to make sure that we conduct.
You're interfering with my 5 minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Well, then the gentleman will.
If you request me to yield you time, I'll give you time.
No, but that's not the procedure.
But that is the procedure.
It is not.
Yes, it is.
So,
of course it is.
Look,
I reclaim my time, and I want this time back. Secretary Mayorkas, have you used your authority to suppress exculpatory evidence presented by CBP agents who've come under public attack and condemnation by DHS and the Biden administration? Have you used your authority to suppress exculpatory evidence presented by CBP agents who've come under public attack and condemnation by you and the Biden administration?
2 points, if I may, Congressman. Number one, in response to your second question, I don't even know what you're referring to. And with respect to your first
I'll take that as that you're on the record as saying no, that you have not used your authority to suppress exculpatory evidence. If you're an honorable man, then obviously you should be able to say no to that. Who would suppress exculpatory evidence? Is your answer no?
I don't even know what you're referring to, Congressman.
You will.
And if I may,
Secretary Mayorkas, have you used your authority to retaliate against DHS agents who served on special details during the Trump administration, agents identified by your administration as conservatives or Trump supporters?
Once again, Congressman, I don't even know what you're referring to.
You're before Congress. I'm going to take that as a no. Through your authority, Secretary Mayorkas, have you encouraged your chain of command to suppress basic law enforcement actions at the border and harass or victimize or intimidate experienced frontline law enforcement agents at the border using internal investigations and threats of disciplinary action or transfer in order to force those agents to comply with DHS policies that actually injure the security of our homeland and are contrary to the sworn oath of those agents? Is that the culture you've created?
Congressman, I don't even know what you're referring to.
You will.
And I am...
Secretary Mayorkas, final question, good sir.
Of honor and
it's been rumored
and nobility throughout the Department of Homeland Security. That is
you represent nobility, Secretary Mayorkas?
Congressman, that is what I am dedicated to.
It's been rumored, Secretary, that you're going to resign prior to January the 3rd. Is any truth to those rumors?
That is a false rumor.
All right. We look forward to seeing you in January. Director Wray, does the FBI have confidential human sources? Did the FBI have confidential human sources embedded within the January 6th protesters on January 6th of 2021?
Well, Congressman, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I have to be very careful about what I can say about when.
Even now, because that's what you told us 2 years ago.
May I finish? About when we do and do not, and where we have and have not used confidential human sources. But to the extent that there's a suggestion, for example, that the FBI's confidential human sources or FBI employees in some way instigated or orchestrated January 6th, that's categorically false.
Did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters inside the Capitol on January the 6th prior to the doors being open?
Again, I had to be very careful.
It should be a no. Can you not tell the American people, no, we did not have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol on
Gentleman's
January
time
the 6th?
has expired.
You should not read anything into my decision not to share information
Director Wray,
about confidential human
gentleman's
sources.
time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All of our witnesses are here today as guests of the committee to discuss threats to the homeland. As our guest, we owe our witnesses respect, and the subject matter of today's hearing deserves thoughtfulness. The chair encourages all members to be polite and to take today's worldwide threats hearing seriously.
Mr. Chairman, may I
recognize-
add, just add briefly,
Yes.
just so I understand my colleagues my side of the aisle. If the chairman speaks, he has the authority to speak at any time he wants. If he speaks, we will make sure you get your time back. So going forward, just understand that, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ranking Member. Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Correa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our honored guests today for this most important discussion. Mr. Wray, Mr. Mayorkas, Ms. Azbida, thank you for being here. Secretary Mayorkas, talking about counterterrorism, threats to the homeland, really threats to Americans on a worldwide basis. We need strong allies around the world to protect the homeland. When Secretary Kelly was there in your position a number of years ago, I asked him about border security. We acknowledge, we agreed that border security does not begin and end at the border. If a threat gets to the border, we've got a problem. So my question to you is, do you feel like we have enough, or do we need additional resources to be able to coordinate intel for the benefit of security of all Americans around the globe?
Congressman, we are working more closely than ever before with our partners.
So if I'm to interrupt you, next week is World Cup, Qatar. Thousands of Americans will be there. And I presume my question is to you and, of course, Mr. Wray. Are we coordinating enough with the government of Qatar to make sure Americans will be safe there?
We certainly, Congressman, have been working with the Qataris in advising them with respect to how to enhance security to
Director Wray?
protect Americans there.
I would just agree with Secretary Mayorkas that we've been providing significant assistance and support to the Qataris in their efforts to secure the World Cup.
You would disagree? We have?
No, I said I would agree with Secretary Mayorkas.
You would agree. Thank you. So I guess the next step is lessons learned. In 4 years, we will have the World Cup in the United States. So any breach, I mean, the government of Qatar, we hope, will have 100% in terms of defense there, no lapses. And I'm hope we're there to learn their lessons, because we're going to have to apply those in the United States in 4 years. Are we shadowing what they're doing?
That's an important part of why we're providing the assistance and the support. It's not just because it's the right thing to do to help the Qataris
It's the right thing for American citizens around the world to make sure we protect.
Yes.
Ms. Abizad, any thoughts on how we can enhance the security of Americans around the globe?
So just on the World Cup point, I would say, the Qataris are very good partners. It's a partnership that we are engaged in from an intelligence community side. We have a threat integration cell that is stationed there, as we do for all major events. And the Qataris actually learned from us before we're going to be able to learn from them when they came out during the Super Bowl in LA to understand how we in the United States do security for major events like this. So it's an ongoing conversation, ongoing partnership. And I would just say, from an international perspective, those partnerships that you mentioned are absolutely critical to being able to secure the country here.
Mr. Mayorkas?
I concur with that, and I should say, Congressman, that we have a very, very well exercised and trained methodology to address major events, and that is throughout the interagency in the federal government, and we work very closely with state and local partners. This is a very evolved architecture that we have built that others learn from, and we, of course, are in an ongoing learning process.
In my last 67 seconds, I would ask all of you really that, an ask of you, which is, what else can we do as a committee to make sure that we're coordinating with our allies and friends around, and maybe even our unfriends around the world, to make sure we stop catastrophic events like 9/11. You know, we talk about border security and 9/11. The terrorists that perpetrated 9/11 entered this country legally, and we continue to focus on the border, on refugees, when the bigger issue is working with our allies around the world and other unfriends to make sure we stop those threats from happening again. What do you need from us to make sure that that type of coordination exists and is enhanced moving forward?
Well, one thing, obviously, it would be a long list, and we welcome the discussion, but the top thing on my list would be to urge Congress to reauthorize Section 702 when it comes up for renewal at the end of next year, because that is the critical tool to understanding foreign threats, which may have, again, foreign threats that may have an impact on the U.S.
So, Mayorkas, my 6 seconds left.
We have one imminent reauthorization that is very much needed, and that is our Countering Unmanned Aerial Systems Authority. And I think that our budget is something that's very, very important to pass, to provide us with the resources to advance our international partnerships.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.